Up next on Inside ChampCar, from sim racing to track action. Welcome to Inside ChampCar. I'm Brian Bielanski, joined by the always effervescent Bill Strong.
Wait, does that mean I smoke?
You have a glisten about you.
It's the foggy lens.
This week on the show, a look back at Carolina Motorsports Park. A look forward to Sebring, our guests, two guys who excel both on the track and on the virtual racetrack. And then our tech tip also has a little sim racing. You know, I spent a whole weekend with you trying not to screw up Futter or Knucker or whatever it was, and I can't say anything else now. I've lost the ability to speak. How you doing?
I'm doing good. And this weekend, I kept seeing names that, you have to be really careful. A huge ass. I mean, they're huge ass.
Yeah.
They're coming out this week. We're going to be talking to them in a little bit. But, saying that word on the show is difficult. And, it's...
There was another one that we talked about, and I texted you this week, Hall & Oates.
Yeah, Hall & Oates.
They're apparently playing in Redondo Beach in September, and I think you and I should go get tickets.
We should. I wonder if they still have the big mustaches.
They probably do, or they tape them on now,
Yeah.
So, all right, Carolina Motorsports Park, you just got home. This is weird. This week, you're at home, and I'm on the road.
Yeah. When we say week, I've been home 2 days.
Right.
I get to leave tomorrow, so sucks.
I hear
but it's life of racing.
There you go. How was Carolina Motorsports Park?
Carolina Motorsports Park was awesome. Great facility. It gets better every time we go back. My first time there was in 2009 with 24 Hours of Lemon. That was my first amateur endurance race I'd ever run, and that place has just grown tremendously. New ownership since back then. And Visceral Racing, everybody showed up for this race. Anybody on the East Coast was there. Visceral Racing Group took first place on Saturday, followed by Pinkies Out. They were with their E30. That car set the FTD of the event at 146.7, while everybody else was in the 148s. But Visceral ended up winning. Pinkies Out got a black flag for something. I forget what it was. No, not a black flag. They had they blew a tire. That's what it was. Huggins was up in Christopher Huggins was up in the tower talking to us, and his radio blaring, something in the back broke, as a guy goes through 2 and 3, and ended up being a blown tire. So it took them a few minutes to change that, but that pulled them back far enough to where they couldn't catch Visceral Racing.
Right.
They ended up running out of fuel too, right at the end. And they just pulled in, which caused Visceral to get an additional lap or maybe 2 laps of MOV for the next day. So perfect time to run out of fuel, I guess, huh?
Exactly.
And then Sunday's race started out with Visceral with a 3-lap deficit for winning the previous day. Pinkies Out won that race again with a different car. They have 2 cars. Normally they run both, but they decided to run one Saturday, one Sunday. The Aero car took first place against Visceral with second place, and Frantic Antic Motorsports took third, Running Bulls in fourth, and NLS Racing in fifth. NLS had some issues over the weekend, but Sunday they came back strong with a 5th and 6th with both cars. Great weekend, man. It was hot, but not the kind of hot that we had at Autobahn.
Right.
Not up into those hundreds, but it was Sunday, what seemed a little hotter in the afternoon than it did on Saturday. But good weekend.
Let's say any issues? Did any drivers, teammates have problems with the heat down there?
We might have a couple of drivers that had some heat issues. Most handled it pretty well. Most teams running some sort of cooling system for their drivers. Feeding cool air to them, the fancy shirts and the air conditioning units in the cars. So that really helps.
All right.
Freddie Mercury was there, one of your teams there that you
I love Freddie Mercury.
They did pretty well on Saturday, not so well on Sunday. Frantic Antic Motorsports again, they top 5 on Sunday too. Running Bulls right behind him on Saturday. Brew Crew again, top 10 place. So trophy wife was there. I think Tiffany Alexander, ChampCar Live broadcaster. She was driving for trophy wife. She kept running around with the trophy overhead. I didn't get it.
I'm not even going there.
Just seeing if you were listening.
I am not going there. Just not going there.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. Yeah, Sebring coming up, which we'll talk about here at the end of the broadcast. But yeah, fun time.
So how many teams do, let's say, Carolina this weekend for whatever it is, 2 whatevers, and then pack up and go right to a place like Sebring? Because, most endurance race teams want to like rebuild the car between races, or at least go over all the important bits and pieces. Do a lot of teams try to do back-to-back type weekends, or do they kind of schedule it with a couple of weeks in between?
Well, Brew Crew's doing it. They're taking 2 cars down. They had 2 cars this past weekend.
Right.
They're taking, just going through the list here. There's a few of them that are doing the double. We did it a couple of times. It's difficult.
Yeah.
It really is difficult, especially with something breaks in the car.
Right.
That was the hardest part for me is taking care of that.
Yeah, because I would wonder if you would maybe do Carolina and then skip Sebring to get ready for Nelson. That kind of type of thing.
Well, this is a Southern race. Yeah, I think we have less Southerners go up to the Nelson race.
Sure.
Than than you normally would, because it's, especially the Florida guys, it's such a long distance to drive. Hell, just getting through Florida takes you 10 days.
It's crazy. All right. That's some good stuff. Anything else you want to jam in here before we get to our famous tech tip?
We do have some really hot races coming up. I think next week we'll talk about prepping for the long enduros and prepping your body and keeping yourself alive during these hot days coming up, especially in cars that are 120, 130 degrees.
Right. And maybe we can also talk about how to prep the car to be better at 120, 130 degrees. That could be another topic of conversation.
Yeah, packing with ice. Oh, I just gave away too much.
Oh, man. There you go. All right, you know what time it is?
It's Tech Tip time. Virtual Tech Tip time. Yeah, I was way off on the beat.
That's okay. We'll forgive you. I can't fix that in post. Can't fix that in post.
It's just not. I was going to try rapping it, but I thought no.
Oh God, that day will come, people, and I apologize ahead of time. Yeah, DJ Willie Bill.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. So our tech tip this week has to do with sim racing. There's a little tease ahead. We're going to talk with a couple of guys coming up after the break who are in charge of, or a big part of, whatever the terminology is, in charge of the ChampCar iRacing League. That's a great conversation. You want to hang out. These guys are good guys. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is, as an old guy who went from racing on the track to iRacing, I struggled. And I hear this story from everybody. Lots of people who, especially us older, graybeardy type people, who try to do some iRacing. It just doesn't feel like my real race car. No, it does not. But and most people don't start with top level gear because they don't want to spend the money, because you can spend as much on your iRacing rig as you do on your ChampCar race car if you really want to. But most people don't start with that. They start with the more rudimentary stuff like the Logitech or the Thrustmaster. And one of the problems that a lot of people complain of, and this was my problem, was the brake pedal does not feel like the brake pedal on a race car. And that really would screw me up. So there's a really simple mod that you can do to the pedal set, and that's what the tech tip is, on a Logitech, the 920 and the other ones in that kind of ilk. It's really simple and it's inexpensive. It cost me, I think, $30 total. And if you have a 3D printer, you can actually print one of the parts, which can take like $10 off it, or you can just buy the part from Amazon and not have to go through the problems. But anyway, essentially what it does is, when you don't have the mod, there's a bunch of throw on the pedal before it actually engages to actually start putting pressure on the brakes. And that throw is not what we're used to in a race car. it may be an eighth of an inch in a race car or a couple of millimeters before you're actually hitting pedal to rotor.
So basically, it's an on-off switch.
Yes, but no, because once you get it to on, you do have modulating pressure. The problem is that you have a half an inch of throw before you get to the pressure. So this mod adds a spring and another little piece of plastic or whatever you would make your 3D out of to bring to fill the gap, essentially, so that as soon as your foot's on the pedal, you're on the modulator system. And it feels so much more like what you would have in a real car that it's really a game changer. And I always just try to help people get past the idea, and because I think that iRacing or any sim racing is such a great tool for people, especially people who don't drive race cars every day. It's a way to put lots and lots of miles in, lots and lots of laps in on some tracks that you may or may not have ever been to, and keep your skills tuned. But so many folks who come from racing and then go to iRacing get frustrated and just give up on it. So my goal in the world of virtual racing is to get old folks like us, Bill, to not give up on it. When you get frustrated and realize it's not the same, it's not the same, I'm giving up. No, it's not the same. But you can get it really close in many cases.
Well, I just, I did some quick searching and you can buy those things already made.
What?
I found one that's called the Illudium Q36 space modulator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it's like the whole package. If you buy them, it's like $30. I know. I'm ignoring you. Bill's making crap up, people.
It's the Illudium Q36 space modulator. Every time he kept saying modulator, that's I kept thinking Marvin the Martian. So sorry.
This time I'm getting picked on. Usually it's me picking on Bill.
I don't know. I'm still one of those guys. I know there's a lot of hate out there towards me for it, but I just don't get the iRacing.
No, it's fine.
I understand you're memorizing the track or whatever, but they do good, and I'm learning.
Yeah,
I'm learning. I just can't do it. I just can't.
Yes, you can. Yes,
I know. I probably could.
You can if you want to, Bill.
Doc tried convincing me to do it too, and him and I did a race, a race one time, and he was kicking my butt, and this isn't real.
I avoided it for years because knew
he was kicking my butt.
Right. I avoided it for years because I knew I would like it, and I wanted to stay married.
Yeah.
And I knew if I got into it, I'd want to spend too much time doing it, and I had young kids, and I really needed to focus on that. And then at the start of the pandemic, I was like, my kids in high school now, they don't care about me so much anymore. I got some time, and I just so wish I would have done this 10 years ago. I really do.
My issue is this job takes so much time that I would end up not doing my job and getting yelled at. Yeah. I get yelled at for doing my job. I really don't want to get yelled at for not doing my job. So, yeah.
All right. Anything else before we head to break?
That's it. Good race this weekend. Decent weather. It was hot, but now we're headed to Florida where it's going to be hot, rainy, snowy, probably a hurricane or two, and all within a weekend probably. And we're doing a live show there. So it'll be me and David Haines, Paul Veltham, and Tiffany Alexander. And it should be fun. I've got some new gear. Thank you, Brian. I got some new gear to do interviews on pit lane. Yeah, which we tested at Willow, and it worked fine. Of course, it's not going to work when I get to.
Of course not.
To Sebring, but we'll see.
Sebring could be good though, because if you can get you got a long, wide open pit lane with nothing in the way. So I think it'll work well for you there.
Yeah, I hope so. But we're going to try it. Two-way communications. Finally, I can hear Paulie while I'm talking.
Nice.
The theory goes. I haven't tested it yet. But,
right. All right, we're going to take a quick stop, and when we come back, Alex Albert, David Haines, we're going to talk about the ChampCar iRacing Series and how these guys transition to racing with ChampCar on the track. We'll do that when we come back. This is Inside ChampCar on the Racing Wire Podcast Network.
Every race weekend, you don't know what's going to happen. But with ChampCar.live, all the action comes right into your living room. The ChampCar Endurance Series is North America's home to real competitive endurance road racing. And ChampCar.live brings you live, full race coverage with in-car, trackside cameras, interviews, and expert commentary. And ChampCar.live brings you live, full race coverage with in-car and trackside cameras, interviews, and expert commentary. Check out ChampCar.live on the web, subscribe, and ring the bell so as not to miss a single minute of the action. It's fun, free, informative, and it's just a click away. ChampCar.live. Come check us out. We bring you a front row seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Welcome back to Inside ChampCar. He's Bill Strong. I'm Brian Bielanski. Joining us now, some guys who know a little bit about ChampCar and know a little bit about racing on the Sims. Alex Albert, David Haines. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So, Bill says you guys know a ton about sim racing, and we don't talk about that enough, in my opinion. So I'm very happy to have you here because maybe I'll learn something that will make this old fart go faster on a sim rig, or maybe I won't. It may not be possible at my advanced age.
Well, the big thing with these guys is that they I believe they started sim racing first and then decided to go real and take their sim racing experience onto a real track, and now they're doing it by they do our ChampCar. They're hosting our ChampCar iRacing series, right. And then they take the some folks from that and put them in real cars, which they have a Miata, and go racing at some of the most iconic tracks in the world. Daytona, Indy, last weekend CMP. Nothing tops CMP, I'll tell you. That's Carolina Motorsports Park for those that don't know.
So I guess to start with, let's go from the beginning like I like to do. Tell us about your racing background, how you got mixed up with the sport. And I guess you said, Bill said that you started with sim racing. So how'd you guys get started with that?
Yeah, so I guess I'll go first and then we'll get to the point to where I meet David. So I started as a kid going to the dirt tracks with Matchbox cars in my pocket. So, I was pretty young. Hung around with a neighbor who had a car, so I got to go in the pits, and I've really loved race cars ever since. I've built them in the dirt and raced my bicycle. Just wanted to be a racer from the earliest age. At I guess I was about 12 or 13, and my parents got me my first wheel. So it was a Thrustmaster T2. And I got a copy of the iconic NASCAR Racing by Papyrus, which, is known far and wide as, a big evolution in sim racing. And from there, I started racing that and spent many, many hours, even did some, of the first online racing by calling into a server in Massachusetts. And young Alex didn't understand long distance rates. And
but Alex's mom and dad probably understood it.
Yeah, and so Alex's one-line racing career was fairly short, but then I just did a lot of offline racing. I was into all the sims the Papyrus put out, Grand Prix Legends, all the NASCAR sims, IndyCar, and just anything that came out, I was all about it. And then eventually iRacing, Papyrus transformed into the company that's now iRacing, and I started doing some racing on there. And from there, I met up with some guys in a league, and we started doing some endurance racing online. This was when iRacing first released the capability, and I believe it was the second ever team event. And David and I have been racing for a while, and he and a few other the guys that still race with us today, and we're at the track this weekend, formed an entry, and we won our first ever 24-hour race. So that's kind of what kicked it off, and that's how I got to meet David.
So
yeah, I mean, a lot of people
go ahead.
about video gaming racing, and they think about Gran Turismo on a PlayStation and 3-lap races and stuff. So for us, when I heard about, iRacing, you can do 6-hour races, 24-hour races online with your teammates. You don't have to be in the same room. You can have, my rig in Australia. That's my story. Alex, across the globe, and together online, we can be teammates, compete in these endurance races, and lucky enough very early on to win a pretty competitive one, and been chasing that high and some higher highs ever since.
So for those folks who are familiar with iRacing and haven't had the chance to go through the Papyrus sim racing era, there's a really cool doc that I stumbled upon, that documentary that I think it was on NBC Sports with Dale Jr., who was a real big advocate for sim racing back in the day. He tells a similar story, by the way. He was living with his brother, and he racked up like $1,000 worth of long-distance bills. And so his story was very similar. But I didn't know any of that whole Papyrus racing background because I didn't do any sim racing when I was younger. But if anybody wants to check that out, it's really a cool doc to see if you can find it. Well, the world's come to a different place, We now have, iRacing and high-speed internet, and it doesn't cost us anything for that anymore. But it's been a pretty big evolution, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. The first sim that I ever really sank time into was called Indianapolis 500, the simulation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was made by Dave Kamer, who is the chief producer at iRacing to this day. And they set out to make a simulation. And if anyone checks it out on YouTube, what it looked like, it was very basic polygons and didn't look anything like the Speedway. But to me, in my mind, it looked like the modern day Sims do. And so they have come a long way, from racing with a couple fingers on a keyboard to now full motion rigs with pressure sensitive pedals and head mounted displays. But in my mind, whenever it was just a few colors and polygons, it still felt very real back then.
So how did you two get together? I mean, what was the story behind all of that?
Well, we were part of the Reddit iRacing League, and that's, I think, where we met. And I think it was just a typical, just like the huge ass real life car origin story. It was a bit of a schnapsity. I think we just at the last minute said, you know what, we got some guys here. Let's put together an entry. And I remember we ran a color spectrum car because we couldn't decide on the color, so we just ran every color. And then we just, the team number I just picked, and then that's the one, because I like 33 and I like 7. I couldn't choose between Harry Gant and Kimi Räikkönen. So I just put them both on the car, and that's our number to this day.
Very cool.
But yeah, talking about our origin story, Tom, my co-owner, we were racing one night on a Sunday night in our league, and I mentioned that I would be in New York the next week for some meetings. And he asked where I worked, and I told him, and it was right across the street from where he worked. So after work, we stopped by the pub to have a few pints. And on the train ride up, I had learned about budget endurance racing, and it sounded so cool to me. And it sounded a lot like what we do in iRacing. And so we were sitting there talking, and we decided we must get a car. We have the guys already, we know race strategy, we're obviously great drivers. We won the 17th split of spot 24.
In our own opinion, we were on top of the world in that moment. Like, we had coalesced with a week of preparation from 8 people who'd been racing against each other every week to, hang on, now we can all pile into the same car. It had started right at the peak, and we thought it was all easy sailing from there.
Yeah, we had no idea. We thought that we could charge around $100 an hour to break even. We didn't even realize that wouldn't cover the entry fees and towing. But we've come a long way from that first season where we didn't know anything. We didn't know how to strap down our car. We rented a trailer. we were clueless. And, we just went out at VIR South and figured it out. And then by our next race was the 2017-24. And I think there was right around 100 cars. There was a tremendous downpour during the race. Monsoon type weather. I've only seen it rain that hard a few times, and we managed to make up a ton of time during that time. And with 45 minutes to go, we were leading our class when our differential broke. And so we thought it was going to be that easy again, second race at 24, just like one line, just like the simulations. But we came short, but it left a hunger in us that's, driven us to continue on and to better our car and better our drivers, every season until this point, to where we no longer, have the slowest car on the track.
Yeah, you guys finished second Saturday in class, 12th overall, and Sunday 20th overall. Still pretty darn good, especially considering how stacked this field was this past weekend at CMP.
Yeah, had a little trouble. It's a new platform. We totally gutted the car over the winter, took all the wiring out, put a new engine in, new differential, really left no system untouched, did a bunch of weight reduction, wider wheels, added an aero package. So we knew there would be some growing pains. Lost about 10 minutes early on Saturday due to some of those growing pains, and then we lost some more time later in the day when we lost our hardtop quite famously now, and luckily
so wait, let's go back to that. So
okay.
So I'm sitting in the tower, I'm developing some pictures that I've
Developing.
Yeah,
with the stop bath and the fixer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Dark room.
Those aren't great for an SD card, but Bill does what Bill does.
No, taped up the windows. But I hear the radio, the corner worker saying, yellow. There's a hard top in the air. It's still in the air. Okay, it's coming down. It's down.
Touchdown.
Well, if you got a good deal, it was a lightweight hardtop then.
But it's in the middle of the track. It's in the line. Oh, he goes, it's in the line.
All right.
And I guess somebody went by it, and the airflow off their wing or whatever caused it to move over off the track, or a little bit off the track. But the safety guy went out and picked it up for you guys. But yeah, it was just really funny. The amount of airtime that thing got was amazing. And there's only one section of it on the inside that's not even really used for much of anything is broke. But yeah, it's so totally usable. Who made that hardtop? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's a Treasure Coast hardtop. And while I would advise adding some kind of chemical or adhesive to the bolts, don't trust friction alone to hold them in. Because it's hard to torque them down much, being that's rib nuts and fiberglass. But they rattled loose. I felt something hit me in the chest in the first stint. Looked around, I didn't see that it was out. I thought maybe it was a bug flew in the aqueduct, and just got on with it. And in hindsight, I should have investigated further. But some teams were helpful and told us some tricks to try to avoid that happening again. But like Bill mentioned, all things considered, I thought it would be in 10 million splinters. Whenever I heard, I had written it off, while I was walking back to buy arm restraints. But it's not that bad, and I think we'll have it patched up, in time for the 24.
So CMP is not an iRacing track, right?
That's correct.
So I always advocate for one of the great things for iRacing is to help learn a track when you're going to it the first time. Obviously, that doesn't work with CMP, but I think that the fact with iRacing, you can teach yourself so many tracks that you've never been to, that it helps when you go to an actual racetrack that you can't have on iRacing, because you've got that dissecting a track in your head like you would in iRacing. And I still think it's a helpful process to do it as often as we do on iRacing, right?
there's some layers to it, isn't it? You've got to learn how to learn,
right?
in a way. And when you find yourself needing to adapt to new cars and new combinations on the sim, and try to be competitive against tens of thousands of the world's best in that discipline, then the way you approach learning new cars, new tracks is pretty important. There's one thing I've seen, Alex has seen, I'm sure, is the guys who've got a sim racing background compared to people who, it's their first time, in a race car, as ChampCar Endurance Series is for a lot of people. That's one of the great things about it, is that for the iRacers, first time the car breaks a little bit loose, they've got a lot more of a sense on how to get it and what it's doing than completely green rookies, no matter the car, no matter the track, whether you've driven it on iRacing or not.
Right, especially if you start with iRacing, because and I went the other way, which is why I think I've struggled so much with iRacing, is that I'm so used to what the seat of the pants tells me in a race car, and you don't get that unless you have a really big time sim race rig, and no one really starts with that. Most people start with their little Logitech or maybe a Thrustmaster sitting on their desk chair, and you don't get that, so you get really frustrated really fast. But I've found that if you can react to a car breaking loose when you don't have seat of the pants, when you do have seat of the pants, it's like, oh man, I know exactly what to do, and it doesn't catch you off guard quite so quickly. That's my experience anyway.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day. I think it was David and I, and basically for you, it's like someone took away one of your senses, but for us, it's like someone added an extra sense to us. Right?
Exactly.
So we've become so dependent on our eyes and our ears and our hands that's that it gives us an advantage.
Right.
But then whenever you add in the full motion, the butt dyno, all the G's, it allows us to, I think, get up to speed
the
quicker.
Smells when you lock it away.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'd always say, because everybody was always so surprised when these guys who were iRacing champions get a chance to go into a big time car. They're always so surprised that they're actually doing well. And I was never shocked at one of these challenge winners who got a chance, the Nismo challenge and all that kind of stuff, that these guys, maybe they weren't the fastest guys out there, but they were absolutely proficient. And it never surprised me, because I realized how tough iRacing was about 30 minutes into trying.
So Brian Hotketter, he was the first U.S. Sony PlayStation whatever it was, the iRacing or whatever, the Nissan.
I'm thinking about the Nissan GT Academy
right.
Gran Turismo.
Yeah. And
that was a very prolific program that put a lot of people from that platform into as high as GT3 racing, and even I think the Nismo LMP1 front wheel drive thing that didn't work out, but the drivers were there.
Yeah. Brian did that, and he MR2 guy, by the way, big national champion autocrosser as well. I could understand that, being able to go into iRacing and having that background with autocrossing maybe, and the feel of the car, but I just could never understand how somebody could just sit at a computer, learn how to race, and then go out there and do so well.
Yeah.
I can't do the opposite. I get on iRacing and I get lost. I just, there's no feel for me, and I don't get it. And that's I'm also old, but that's.
I like the way Brian put it earlier, where you go, if you've got a lot of experience in the real car, you go to the sim and you feel like one of your hands is behind your back. You're losing one of those senses that you've learnt with, you've come to rely on, versus opposite direction, where suddenly it's like, well, I'm familiar with all of this, plus, I can feel that starting to, get loose under me when I push through this corner. Yeah.
Well, I remember when you guys showed up to the VIR race, and the scuttlebutt around the paddock was, all these iRacing guys, they're new, just stay away from them a little, but it ended up not being anything like that. I think you guys had to stay away from guys like me.
Yeah, and I actually got the pleasure of passing Bill last year at VIR North when he was in the Bliss car, and
he had a problem.
Did you?
Yeah, you took the problem of getting past by 1.6 liters.
Yeah,
that's the one thing that also carries over from sim racing to the real world racing is the excuses.
Oh, yes.
Right? Real world racing is like, oh, I had this problem, that problem. Sim racing, it's all, I think there's something stuck in my load cell. My force feedback's not doing right. Also, my CPU is overheating, and they're doing network maintenance on my internet this week.
Yes. Yes. There's no lack of.
Beat you any other day.
Exactly.
I think the biggest advantage, though, is just the reps.
Yep.
So, I don't know who the most experienced driver in ChampCar is. Bill's definitely been to the most races, so he's maybe even driven in the most, right? But he doesn't have 900 starts, right? So I have over 900 ranked starts in iRacing just in road racing. If we added in hundreds of oval races and dirt track races and unofficial races, and I mean I have thousands of starts and have made probably thousands of mistakes, right? But I don't make a lot of them the same mistakes, and the risk is a lot lower. And I think all that kind of stuff helps you deal with the emotional pressure and just everything that's going on in a race car. Your heart gets pounding when someone comes up on you. The reps of all that stuff, of going through those highs and lows, I think it pays off later, and it makes you, I mean, maybe you're not quite an old hand, but it makes you an old hand quicker.
I had a great example of like a perfect, the driving is never a perfect translation from the sim to ChampCar Endurance Series or any other racing series, but we're all familiar with ChampCar. We've driven in it. There was one example the other weekend at Autobahn where it did translate 1-to-1, and that was the race strategy. We've done a lot of these team endurance iRacing events, and you're looking at your teammates' fuel number and where the other guys are, and are you going to need to pit again? And we got the best results for Daring Greatly Racing that they've ever had in the several years that they've been competing in ChampCar. And I was doing exactly the same thing for their team owner and their driver. Is every 15 minutes, radio them, tell us the fuel gauge, we'll work out if you can push, if you've got to save, and if we can bring this thing home. And we did for a class podium there. And it was 1-to-1 how you manage the endurance races strategy-wise on the sim to how it was in ChampCar Endurance Series.
And there's one other 1-to-1 that I think, or very close to 1-to-1, and it's in focus. Because especially over the course of a long endurance race, I did the 24-hour at Daytona iRacing back in January, and then we did Sebring. And I am the slowest guy on my team. I make the most mistakes on my team, but we have a ton of fun doing it. But the focus that I was able to train myself to do when you're doing a 24-hour race and you get, 300-400 laps in a 24-hour period at Daytona, I was so much better at everything at the end of that race than I was at the start of the race. And the one thing I noticed was the focus. And to be able to do that on the sim race rig as well as to get into a race car, I knew exactly where I missed an apex because I could go back and watch that lap when I got out of the car. And I made just little tweaks in that. And by the end, I was making far fewer mistakes. I was hitting my marks every time. And that absolutely is the same type of focus needed in a real car.
So I couldn't agree more.
So let's talk a little bit. You guys do you run the ChampCar iRacing series? Are you the big proponents for it? What's your connection there?
So I'd say yeah.
Go ahead, David.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll get in on that. Yeah. So between myself, Tom Ellison, a couple of the other guys that are within QJAS, we are the sort of administrators day-to-day running for the ChampCar iRacing series, which is a season-long iRacing championship open to anyone, especially marketed at our ChampCar Endurance Series competitors, but also open to anyone on iRacing who wants to experience just a little sim taste of what ChampCar Endurance Series offers. And so across 16 rounds from, I think we're February to November this year, we try to mirror a little bit of the ChampCar Endurance Series schedule, the kind of cars that you would see in ChampCar. So slower than what people are typically racing on iRacing, a lot closer to some of the more production-based things, and going to every circuit that iRacing has a replica for. And at the end of the season, there is 2 prizes, and I'm a big fan of how we've been doing this. The season-long points champion gets 1,500 ChampCar credit to, go and race in the next season. So if they're already a ChampCar member, ChampCar racer, good for them. They've been joining us on the sim all through the year, done well, and then have a prize to go put somewhere to race the next year. But as has happened at least 1 or 2 times here, an iRacer joined us across the season, won the prize, and then jumped into real racing potentially for the first time. And every example we've had of that, particularly reigning champion Mike McCormick, done pretty well. He had his first iRacing event. And then the second prize that I am such a big fan of is anyone who completes at least 12 of the rounds across the calendar goes into the draw, might have their name drawn out of a hat randomly for an equally valuable prize. So there's a big reward there for everyone who shows up, part of the community. Every Wednesday night when there's a championship race, there's always a lot of good mix of sim races and well-known names, Nick Love, others in the ChampCar Endurance Series. There's a good mingling that happens there as well, and you get to have a little bit of the weeknight gossip as well. How did your car go at this event? What are you looking forward to? Are you doing anything new? So there's a lot of benefits to it there. It keeps the ChampCar members sharp. It creates an interesting pathway for the sim racers to see, like I've done, like Alex has done, that this world of real racing that seems too expensive, too difficult to get into, and too far away. If you can get to sim racing and you do it pretty well there, it's not beyond you.
Right.
So there's a couple of benefits there between the ChampCar members on iRacing, the iRacing members getting the ChampCar, and just everyone having a good excuse to catch up.
Right. So, quick question, because I have one of my first frustrations with iRacing when I jumped on it was, because we don't have to worry about damaging real race cars and possibly breaking bones, especially in the rookie series, there is a lot of unnecessary contact. And it gets to be real frustrating when you really just want to try to drive like you would on a real racetrack. I participate in another series that's tied to actual road racing, and because of that, the people in that are much cleaner racers in iRacing like you would be on a regular racetrack, because we try to have consequences for that. Is that a similar thing in the ChampCar iRacing series, that you guys are a lot cleaner than you would on a typical iRacing situation?
I'd say every league where you're racing the same people round to round to round is going to be cleaner than jumping in, the random hosted lobbies and the random things where you might never see that person again. That's just a fact that if you race that guy last week and he raced you clean, you're the bad guy this week. You go and shove him off or make a risky move. And we do have administration and post-race protests and stuff, and people want to go down that path to the ChampCar iRacing series. But I'd say there's always lessons to be learned there, because in ChampCar racing, if someone hits you, that's their fault. But there's also something for you to learn that maybe you could have avoided that. And the same thing.
It's never my fault.
I know.
It is never my fault,
maybe
man.
You could have avoided it not being a situation that was not your fault. So working your way through that iRacing rookies thing, and where it all does seem a little dicey and clean, and people are throwing moves that you would not see or expect at the real racetrack. Working your way through that gives you a great sense of what's around you that translates well to the real world racing.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. Great tip. So our tech tip this week, which will be actually before you guys in the show, I'm going to do a tech tip on brake pedal mods, because I think that's one of the big frustrations for new racers, especially with the Logitech pedal, is that the pedal feel is really weird. So I'm going to do that. Hopefully you guys can chime in on comments and tell everybody that I was either full of crap or actually had it spot on. So, and I'm good with it if you think I'm full of crap, but.
No, I think you want a stiffer pedal. I like a stiff pedal in the real race car and a stiff pedal in the sim. I think you have more modulation, right? If it would fall down with 2 pounds of pressure, then I need to modulate all my force in that amount. Where if I have 100 pounds of pressure, okay, now I just need to push 1 pound per percentage or whatever that is, right?
Yep.
And I actually don't even use travel-based pedals. I use pressure-based pedals. So the Logitech, I think the mod is you put in a stiffer elastomer to try to make it harder to push to give you a little bit more feel. But the next level up would be a load cell pedal. So it uses something out of like a bathroom scale, and it can tell how hard you're pressing against it. And I find those to be a lot more realistic as far as doing threshold braking, and they're a lot, like the real car.
Yeah.
So where do people go to find out about information about ChampCar iRacing, the hardware, the software, how to join up, when your races are, stuff like that?
I would go to forum.champcar.org.
Correct. Right up the top there, a lot of pinned helpful threads about if you're new to iRacing, what your basic troubleshooting might be, what kind of equipment you might be looking for. And then, of course, right up there is also the schedule that has all of the practice rounds and championship point rounds. And there's plenty of helpful people there. Forum.champcar.org, right up the top in the iRacing section.
Cool.
And David had mentioned about the showing up for 12 rounds. That's also how the scoring works. So if we're about midway through the season now, so you're probably out of the points hunt, but it wouldn't hurt to come out now, get running, and get up to speed, because just like real racing, you're going to burn a few races on getting it figured out.
So how long is the season?
It's 16 rounds.
Okay, so you need and you get the best 12 towards the championship?
That's right.
Got it. Good idea.
Runs till November, so it's...
Yep.
Again, it's never too late to join. That's what he's saying is,
right.
But whether you're in the championship hunt or the lucky draw hunt, what you will do is learn plenty, get up to speed, and have the chance to just, chat in a more casual setting than in the paddock with a big handful of familiar names, faces, and car owners that you'll see all around the USA and Canada in the ChampCar Endurance Series. Got a couple Canadians racing with us on the iRacing Series this year.
Yeah, and our current reigning champ, Mark, he's used this to get a seat in the national championship car for a 24-hour race this summer. I was able to use some of my success in the series to make friends with some people and get into some race winning cars in the last few years. So there's, as you mentioned earlier, no one should be surprised when the iRacers are quick, and there's definitely car owners in the series that are that pay attention.
They're finding out. That's right.
The worst thing it does is it starts a conversation, and the best thing it does is maybe starts a resume.
Yep.
Well, that's prolific. We're going to have to put that in a promo, Bill. All right, guys, we appreciate you coming on and taking some time and really giving us the lowdown on the iRacing series. And
wait, I'm still hurt by the 1.6 liter passing me with Bliss Racing.
What'd you say, Bill? What'd you say?
That still hurts.
Anyway, I will assure you that you're going to find me lurking in one of these series in the very, very near future. So I'll come on and jump on and get this first half of the year, the last half of the year, to prepare me to get on the track and kick Bill's butt on the racetrack too. So,
forward to seeing your name and hearing your voice.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're going to head out here. When we come back, we're going to preview the upcoming race this weekend in Sebring, which you can certainly do some iRacing practice to get ready for that. We'll do all that when we come back next on Inside ChampCar.
Inside ChampCar is a podcast that takes a deep dive into all things going on with the ChampCar Endurance Series. Hosted by veteran journalist, radio host, and racer Brian Bielanski and ChampCar's very own Bill Strong, we talk to drivers, team bosses, tech gurus, and series supporters. Episodes air every week in time for you to listen on your way to the track. Inside ChampCar is on the Racing Wire Podcast Network, found on Apple, Spotify, Google, and most popular podcasting apps.
Welcome back to Inside ChampCar. He is
Bill Strong.
I am Brian Bielanski, and what a great conversation. I'm going to get you hooked on this iRacing thing yet, Bill.
I did it during the, I tried
Right.
during what do you call it, pandemic
Yeah.
start. Finally got internet where I could do it. But the equipment.
Yeah.
I just don't have the equipment, and it's like,
I've got
Sure.
the basic stuff, dude. Having a blast. You know, it's funny. What I didn't say is that 24-hour Daytona that I did, I had COVID.
Yeah.
And I was quarantining in the same office where my sim race rig was, and I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to do the race. And man, I felt horrible. Oh, I was so sick.
well,
Anyway.
it's I worked through my COVID incident, and just broadcast from the hotel room that my wife made me stay at because I wasn't allowed to go home.
Oh, wow. Oof.
She's mean.
All right, we've got Sebring coming. Oh, real quick, there's no Thunderhill, right?
No Thunderhill. That got canceled. I think we only had like 4 or 5 entries, and we can't do a 12-hour 4 or 5 entries.
Maybe we'll get some more entries next year.
Hopefully. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that by next year I might have a little West Coast ChampCar car that we can be putting together out there.
Cool.
Got lots of plans in the back of my head. Just need a little money to do it.
I have lots of those too.
Yeah, just need some money to fund them. So, all right. So Sebring's coming up. That's a big deal, right?
Yep. I leave tomorrow. Go pick up some more Flagtronics units to hand out and sell and do all kinds of crazy stuff with for our racers. Then pick up some decals and from RVA Graphics and Wraps, and then heading down to Ray Frank's, and we're driving down Thursday morning, and we should be there Thursday afternoon with the rest of the ChampCar crew.
Cool.
We have a track day on Friday, and Saturday, Sunday, 8 and 7.
Nice.
Or is it 7 and 7? I think it's a 7 and 7 race, double sevens.
Anything special everyone needs to know going down to Sebring's? You got to wear pants, right?
Got to wear pants. No tidy whities.
Well, you can wear those too.
Under or over.
Oh, you can wear them over. There's no rules against that.
We had folks asking if they could wear, spandex and all kinds of stuff. But think about fire.
Spandex melts. Yeah, you don't want that.
Nope, melts and catches on fire and does weird stuff to your skin.
Yeah, you don't want your little buddies dealing with that.
No,
that'd be bad.
So that's one of those things. And then supposedly somebody told me it's supposed to rain all weekend. So I haven't looked at the weather report. If it is, I'll post that up on the Facebook, especially Facebook, because I know how much people hate it when I post up weather reports. But I think Sebring is fun in the rain. Some others don't because it's pretty slippery.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and it is one of those iconic places that I dreamed of racing at growing up, and you guys do it there. That's awesome.
One of my. I would say it is my favorite track to race on. It goes back and forth between that and Road Atlanta.
Yeah,
but it's a dream to win there. I got close, very, very, very close, but that's it.
My one time there, and we're gonna get out because we've got a lot of show still, to talk about down the road. But one of my one time racing at Sebring, I've been in that area a lot, but you cross over the Florida border and you realize that you still have like 12 hours to get there. It seems like a long way. So,
we found a shortcut.
Oh, well, you have to tell me about that.
We don't go through Orlando. We go around. We keep going south and then cut through the farm fields. Now, you want to see what it's like going through farm fields forever? That's what it's like. That.
All right. Next week on the show, we're going to talk about Nelson Ledges. Well, we'll talk about Sebring, what happened, and then we'll preview the 24-hour at Nelson Ledges. And
longest day of Nelson.
That's right. We can't wait for that. So it'll be a lot of fun. We'll talk about that next week. Anything else before we head out, Bill?
No.
All right. That is going to do it.
That's it.
For another episode of Inside ChampCar. If you like what you heard, subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss an episode. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe and hit that bell. It would also be great if you would share it on your social media channels, comment on the ChampCar Facebook page, unless it's a bad comment, then put it on Facebook. If you like new episodes every week, Bill Strong is my co-host. I am Brian Bielanski. This is the Racing Wire Podcast Network. Have yourself a great week.